This is CBS 2 Eyewitness News at 5.
He said he wanted us to call him Daddy and said if we ran away, he'd shoot us. Those chilling words in federal court today from Shasta, Groene. That is tonight's big story. Good evening. I'm Mike Burad. Natalie Hurst is on assignment. The jury heard Shasta's story through a taped police interview just hours after her rescue. It is the latest in Joseph Duncan's sentencing trial. Scott Logan was in court today. He has tonight's big story from the News Center.
A captain with the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, specially trained in dealing with abused children, conducted this videotape interview. And just so you know, we're not going to get into any graphic detail here. Now, the officer told Shasta, "I know this must be hard to talk about." And she said, "It's hard to even think about." Before Joseph Duncan kidnapped Shasta and Dylan Groene in North Idaho, prosecutors say he roamed several western states looking for children to prey upon. And in a videotaped interview with police at a Coeur d'Alene hospital hours after she was rescued from a Denny's restaurant on July 2nd, 2005, an exhausted 8-year-old Shasta, wrapped in a quilt, described her ordeal in a quiet, at times halting voice. In the videotape played for jurors, she told a police investigator how Jet, as she calls Duncan, came into the home, tied her and Dylan up, and took them into the remote Montana forest. She said Duncan told the children he had killed their mother Brenda, her fiance Mark McKenzie, and their older brother Slade with what she called, quote, a big, huge, powerful hammer. She described sexual abuse at the isolated campground, the touching of private spots, as she put it, had said Duncan would hit the children in the head when they screamed to keep them quiet. Shasta also said she watched in horror as Duncan shot Dylan in the head with a shotgun. Shasta then said Duncan told her the shooting was an accident and described how Dylan's remains were burned in a campfire, then dumped in a creek. When police asked why Duncan seemed to be bringing the little girl home when he was captured, Shasta replied, "He said, I taught him how to love." Duncan sat in the courtroom today with his eyes closed, resting his head in clasped hands, almost as if in prayer. A jury will decide if Duncan should get the death penalty or a fixed life sentence for kidnapping and killing Dylan Groene. Live in the News Center, Scott Logan, CBS 2 Eyewitness News.
Scott has been inside that federal courtroom since the beginning of this trial, and it is moving along much faster than anyone expected. Now, one reason for that is since Duncan is representing himself, he's chosen to cross-examine witnesses less than his attorneys might. Attorneys often question thoroughly or object to evidence questions, but for the most part, Duncan has remained silent. Also, the prosecution is not providing a list of witnesses, and everyone involved in Duncan's sentencing trial is under a gag order, so there's no way to know what's coming next. CBS 2 will stay on top of this trial, of course, and bring you the latest details